Welcome to the new look of Sage My Business. It has recently had a facelift, and we do look forward to receiving your feedback so we can continue making Sage My Business even more user friendly. I will be going through the menu items that have had the features added to them, and I'll describe and demonstrate how they work and how they can be to your benefit. First things I'd like us to look at is our company menu, and the first option there is our change company settings. You now have the option to create and manage your email signatures for all your quotations and your documents. So from here, you would simply go to your email signatures, and this means if you're on the go and you select to quote a client, etc., you don't need to now sit and manually type out the email, etc. Passo will have defaults ready preset. Just to preview one of those default emails, as you can see, the subject will be the quotes. Wherever you see brackets, that information will be populated from your account data. So quote number will be the global quote numbering system, unless you have selected to manually input all your quotation numbers. Contact name in this instance will look at the customer's name as you have saved it in your company data. Username is the person who's logged in at the time, as well as the company name will now look at the company details. Still on our company settings, you now have got your item settings that you can look at. Item settings now gives you an option to show inactive items on document lines. So now it can be displayed for selection on document lines. So if you're not selling an item frequently, you can still display it on your document lines. Second feature I'd like us to look into is our company notes and attachments. Now you've got categories that you can link to your attachments. Good example, if you've got customer contracts, you've got your employee contracts that you would like to save and you want to have access to whilst you're on the go, you are able to save that now as opposed to physically storing them in the office. Secondly, you've got your notes tab. Notes is looking at any ancillary information that you may have added in terms of your items, which is your inventory. If you added a note on your customer, something like their birth date, or perhaps it could have been their contractual agreement with you. Same thing applies with the supplier. So these you can access whilst you're on the go, and you do not necessarily need to contact someone who's still in the office to send these to you. We're now going to look at budgets. As far as budgets are concerned, you can add a budget using historical data, or you can use it, you can create a budget manually. So from this instance, what I will then select to do is that perhaps I'm working on quarter 3 and I will create my budget manually. Your budgets can now be viewed. You can compare your actual income versus your expenditure throughout the year. So you can generate them from scratch or from historical data. And all it is a very simple, easy format for you to input. On your left hand side, you will have your accounts listed, and on the right hand side, you can now move and tab across and input your values as you see fit for each of those items. Once you complete, all you need to do is scroll to the bottom and you can save that. And in order for you to view your budget, you've got your view budget report option. Once your budget is created, which will then populate at the top, where you can view the report, where it will now compare your actual versus your budgets. Last feature on our company menu item is now looking at our opening balances. So when you create a company from scratch and you need to record opening balances because either you've been working from a previous accounting system or you've been working on a manual system. So this tool is actually the best wizard for you because it will basically guide you in terms of how do you capture your data. What you would need to have is a trial balance from your accountant or auditor in this instance, and you can then take those values and add it onto the relevant accounts. In the event that you want to create an account because it appears on your trial balance, however, we have not created it as part of our defaults, all you need to do is go select to add an account. Passel will have categories predefined for you. If you do not know what category that account falls under, all you need to do is utilize that option to say, I'm not sure, I need to check with my accountant or ask my accountant, and once they have verified, you can then come back and add it from there and proceed. You've got your debits and your credit columns. This is taken from your financial categories in accounting. Once you're happy with that, you simply update and all your opening balances would have been captured. Just to do a recap, we have looked at change company settings, which is basically you now have your email signatures, as well as you can display inactive items on your document lines under your item settings. Secondly, we looked at our company notes and attachments, which you can categorize according to your needs, whether it's business, it's VAT, is it your compliance documents, any other miscellaneous, you've got that option. Now, we then also looked at our budgets, where you can create a budget and you can compare your actual versus your budgeted figures. You can use historical data if you do have, or you can manually capture your budget from scratch. And lastly, we now looked at our opening balances, which is basically saying, I've been working on a previous accounting software, and therefore I want to capture my reports that I receive from my accountants, so that for the new year, I've got a base or a foundation to work from going forward. Second menu item I'm going to look into is our control user access. Control user access gives you, the purchaser of the software, the ability to control people that you have invited. This means when you've created a user, so from here you would create users and they'd be sent invites for them to accept and have access to your software. After that, you can then go back and into that user specific profile, determine from each of these menu items what access can they have. In terms of my account, can they go adjust account balances, etc.? Can they go under my customers? What options do they have? Do they have the options to create quotations, yes or no? And all it is, you'll check. You will look at your allowed column. Whatever is ticked on is basically giving them the permission to transact with that. Whatever is not ticked on, they do not have that relevant access. So from my profile, this is basically your details. And this is where you can select to amend your details. Billing information pertains to us. Your address and contact details you can amend and save, which will then update to us automatically, and my details is still pertaining to you as our customer. Still staying on our right hand side of our screen, you now have your favorites option. Favorites options is basically giving you the option to say whichever menu item I work on the most, I want it to be one of my quick access menus. So I can simply go add it by managing my favorites, look into that specific menu item. Maybe it's a transaction. I always want to do a supplier invoice in this instance. So from there, you just basically drag it across and will then be added as one of your favorites. Once you complete, you save that change. And if I go back to my favorites, as you can see, I now have add supplier invoice. And if I manage my current favorites, I can move them around. I can drag and drop to a hierarchy that is suitable to me. So going back to access it, now where supplier invoice was right at the bottom, it is now my first option from the top. At this point, I'm going to conclude the webinar from the company that I've created, and I will now revert to the one in our demo company available when you type in sagemybusiness.com.au to demonstrate the rest of the features. Our quick view menu is basically giving you a holistic view of what is happening in your respective databases. So if I select my quick view and I want to perhaps view my customers, so I can view my customers from here. I've got the option to select a specific customer, and Pastel will basically give me a bird's eye view on what has been captured for that customer. In this instance, it's looking at morning view. Overview is giving me my recent transactions, my reports for that customer. This is my sales history in comparison to how they are paying me. If I look at my invoices, I've got all my customer invoices. So in this instance, perhaps a customer calls you and they want to find out, has a particular invoice been paid, yes or no? You've got that option to include paid invoices, and how you basically check between the two. You're going to compare your total column versus your outstanding, and it will already be numbered in sequence for you. So your total, wherever you've got your outstanding is 0, that means that that invoice has been paid. However, you can also choose to not have those pre-populate for you to view. So quick view applies to customers, suppliers, items, as well as bank accounts and your accounts. So you can basically, in your time, take time out to just view those items and check those menus using our demo company to see what other features are available for you. I'm going to move now on to our fourth menu item, our customers. In our customer menu, you can now add a sales rep as you see fit. All it is that you need to do is basically go to add a sales rep, and you can input their details from there, and Pastel will save that automatically once that is complete. Going to our customer transactions. If I view a customer tax invoice, in the past, after you printed or emailed a document, you did not have the option to go back and amend it. So what I will do, I will go to amend an existing document. In which instance would you use this feature? You would edit an existing document provided that it does not change the invoice value. Perhaps you want to change the customer's physical address, or you want to change the VAT details. So any minor modifications, you are now able to go and change on a document that has already been edited and printed. So I'm going to look at our Blazing Cycle trails to display and demonstrate this feature. So I'm going to edit that document. So as you can see, it is grayed out. Perhaps the one thing I want to change here is the address to 6 Penswood. Once I'm done, so you see the status will tell you the tax invoice is not printed or paid. So in this case, I will then select to save it. To prompt you as per your parameters. And the document is edited. So I will then go back once again the second time just to display how can I now check what changes happened then on that document. If I go select my options, I've got invoice history. that will display over there. This is where you will then now see what changes have been implemented, what editing information has been changed. Pastel will note the date, when it was originally created, and it will tell you the original document was edited after it is marked as printed or emailed. And it will then start noting from you. The changes that I instituted in this instance is the 28th of the 8th, which is showing today's date. So what other options do you have enabled to you? From here, you can create a recurring invoice, credit note, credit notes, and re-invoice, basically meaning if I issue a credit note is returning to the customer, and at the same time, I want to capture an invoice. So that is your other menu option. And what has also changed is the wording. In the past, credit notes was termed credit returns. In this case, it has been changed to credit notes. So, just to reiterate in terms of editing your customer documents, customer tax invoices can now be edited after you have processed and printed them. You would typically edit a tax invoice to make small changes to the details, such as adding the tax number, changing the delivery address, or any other minor modifications. The Edit Invoice button is available when you're viewing an existing tax invoice. A new Send Invoice button is also available, allowing you to easily print or email the tax invoice. The Options button, which is the one I'm currently on, can be used to view the invoice history, because it's basically tracking all the changes you have made to the invoice, and will also be used in future releases to include other quick tasks on the document pane that you can have access to. So when you print a tax invoice, a printed flag is set to ensure that you can only print one copy of the original tax invoice. If you print a tax invoice again, the tax invoice name will then be printed as a copy of tax invoice, which basically displays that this document has already been printed. This is one of our security features that we have installed and made sure that they run accordingly. And what you will also note that this is also in line with the guidelines as set out by many revenue services worldwide. We do, however, have the following cautionary advice with regards to editing printed documents. Before you actually invoice it, Pastel My Business will warn you that you are editing a printed document, which means you are reissuing something that has already been sent. So take into account, you should only edit only for minor changes, meaning the amount or the invoice value stays the same. That basically takes us to the end of our customer menu. So what I will now look into is our banking menu, what options you have available to you from there. Your bank and credit cards widget basically allows you to use the bank and credit cards on the dashboard to give you an overview of all your banks and credit cards and their balances. So if I go quick view and I view my bank accounts, that is where I'm going to get a quick view of what is happening on each of my accounts, and it will show me my relevant transactions as well as my balances. Sage My Biz allows you to import your bank statement onto your software or onto your profile or in terms of your company. So from here, you've got the option to split your transactions. Splitting a transaction says, I physically went to the bank and I deposited a amount. Hypothetically, it's $20,000, for instance. Of that $20,000, only $10,000 relates to my sales. Another $10,000 was perhaps an owner's contribution to the company. So you would want to show that split individually. Now you are able to do that. Another feature which I cannot display today is our automatic bank feeds. Starting today, you can set up automatic bank feeds, which allow you to automatically import bank statements into your My Business Bank or credit card accounts from the bank and other financial institutions. This saves you the time to manually import it every single time. So what you would imagine is basically a triangle. The one side of the triangle is your bank as well as your bank account details. The other side of the triangle is your Sage My Business, and on the top part is the connector, which is actually the intermediary, which will sit with your credentials. So you would need to give them your credentials to log in on your behalf with your bank and take that information and send it through to Pastel. So as and when transactions go through your bank, they would be downloaded and updated automatically. I just need to stress that this feature has been released in beta. So while a great deal of testing has been done and we are confident that the feature works well, we do welcome any suggestions and feedback while it is in this stage. So what you can do, you can email beta@pastelmybusiness.co.za. I will repeat that. It's beta@pastelmybusiness.co.za. At this point, I just want to cover the holistic view of all our new features that I've just mentioned and spoken about. Company, you've got your change settings, your company attachments, you've got your budgets, as well as your opening balances. Under administration, you've got your control, your user access. Then you've got your managing your favorites that you can amend depending on the menu items that you use on a more frequent basis. Quick view now gives you a holistic or a bird's eye view of a customer, supplier, item, or bank account record. So it will show you your transactions that have pertained or have occurred in that particular customer's account. As far as your customer menu or listing is concerned, you've got the option to now create a sales rep. You also have an option to edit existing documents, and if you want to track that history on a customer document that you have selected to edit, you've got an options tab that allows you to go through each history path to show you what changes have been made in this particular document. So I will now look at our items. Items is basically relating to your inventory. So in my items, I've got a transaction under my adjustments. Previously, item adjustments had to be processed one at a time. Now a quick integrate option is available under your item adjustments wizard. It gives you an option to access grid view that allows you more than one item to be adjusted at a time, which will basically save you time and you've got faster data entry. As you can see, this is the second option I'm relating to, where the quantity on hand average cost is amended using a quick integrate option. This adjustment also applies when I look at my customers, if I want to do my adjustments for my customers as well as my suppliers. And very critical still, on your items menu, when you add an item going forward, you will now be required to add an item code. So you will use this code to search and find that relevant item. So what happens if you are already using items? When you log in for the first time, you will be required to enter the item codes for all your system items. Two options are available to you. You can add your codes manually, or you can let My Business create them for you. In which case, the first 6 characters of your item description will be used, followed by an incremental number. So if I view my item list, there would be a code noted and next to each one. So I'm just going to go through to the next pages. As you can see, you've got bicycle building, you've got your carbon sole shoes, which is basically looking at the first 6 letters and an incremental number from them. So what happens if you now want to change your numbering system on your items? All you've got to do is, under your items, go to your renumber item codes. So perhaps this repair indicator, or let me just select an easier one, the carbon that I was looking at. Maybe the carbon sole shoes, I want to renumber it as CARB. Then I'd renumber that code. So from here, if I go back to my item list and I view that carbon item, the numbering or the item code should have changed accordingly. As we can all see, it is now numbered as my changes. So just to repeat that, if you already have items existing, on your next login, Passel will prompt you to issue an item code for each one of them. 2 options available for you. You can manually select it for yourself or create them for yourself, or you can allow Sage My Business to create them for you, which in this instance it will look at the first 6 letters or 6 characters and then add an incremental number thereafter. Ladies and gents, that basically takes us to the end of our webinar. Other features that have been included which would not really affect our end users is basically looking at our Accountants Edition. So from our Accountants Edition, it's giving you the option to have access to an advisor who's qualified and certified on Passel My Business to provide support as well as assistance to you. So if you have invited your accountant or your bookkeeper and they are registered for the Passel My Business Qualified Advisor Program, you will then be able to set a reminder note for to-dos or meetings straight to your accountant from My Business. So this only applies if they're on the program and you've invited them on your side to have access to your computer or to have access to your company information. And pertaining to them, they would have the accountants area. From the accountants area, they would have the option to process journal entries on your behalf. Now, when they process the journal entries, depending on which item or which account they are working with or working from, they can then now, instead of saying increase or decrease, it's now taking on the original format of that account is either a debit or a credit. Another option available for them, they can view previous entries. Perhaps they do not remember when last they captured a journal for you or what the journal looked like. So in this instance, I can choose to backdate a transaction. I want to view when I was capturing that particular transaction, and we'll leave it to August and say okay. And the journal that they captured at the time was relating to motor vehicles. So in my search bar field, I will type in motor. So what Passel goes and does, it looks through all the records in that date range that contain that number or that letter that you have stipulated. and where the reference picks up Moto, then it will show them their records. So this is basically a great reminder where sometimes they deal with a whole lot of clients at one go. Now they've got access to actually search on that particular client's history to check the relevant transactions that they would have posted. Accountants Edition features, and they're currently available, and they include my client list to access and manage clients, my tasks and my calendar to manage daily tasks, and the accountant's dashboard to view client information. Secretarial information is released in beta. While a great deal of testing has been done, we are confident that it works. However, we still do welcome any suggestions and feedback while it is still in the beta phase. Accountants and bookkeepers that are registered for the My Business Qualified Advisor program have access to the company console that allows searching on company names, contact information for each company, as well as displaying pertinent information such as the financial year-end date and the next tax submission date. Also included on this console is a reminder of any new notes, due and overdue notes. These reminders include notes that are sent by your clients directly from within My Business. Thank you very much for your patience as well as your time. I hope the features that I have demonstrated and I've spoken about will be of great use and benefit to you. Contact details for any of the features that I explained were in beta are as follows. It's beta@pastelmybusiness.co.za. And if you've got any other input that you'd like to add or get clarification on, so what you would then select to contact is support@pastelmybusiness.co.za for more information. Thank you very much.